Industrial strength, self-improvement with Six Sigma. What if achieving your biggest goal could be as systematic as running a world-class factory? Imagine applying the same methods that made companies like Amazon and Toyota industry leaders to your personal ambitions.
So I applied jobs for 30 times, got rejected. I went for a police, they said, no, you're not good.
It sounds extreme. My life is a Six Sigma project, but stick with me. In this guide, you'll learn how to turn your self-improvement journey into an infinite feedback loop, IFL, powered by data-driven insights. This isn't your typical motivation talk. It's a fusion of personal development and Six Sigma process, thinking that can supercharge your results. We'll start with a quick crash course on key Six Sigma concepts in plain English. Don't worry if you're not a math person. You'll get just enough statistical savvy, like what sigma levels and standard deviations really mean, to be dangerous, in a good way. You'll see how companies like Amazon deliver near-perfect quality at massive scale, and how hospitals use these methods to save lives. Then we'll pivot right back to you. Your top 3 desires, your daily habits, your own process. You'll put one of your goals into a formalized infinite feedback loop, mirroring the famous DMAIC cycle, define, measure, analyze, improve, control, that drives Six Sigma projects. Along the way, you'll use visual tools. Think control charts, Pareto charts, even a simple SIPOC diagram to map out and attack your goal with industrial-grade precision. Sound intense? It is, but it's also incredibly empowering. By the end, you'll know how to treat any personal desire as a process that can be measured, analyzed, and improved continuously. No more vague resolutions. You'll have a step-by-step loop to follow and refine, turning trial and error into trial and improvement. Let's dive in. The Six Sigma approach to personal growth. To understand how an infinite feedback loop will transform your self-improvement, let's borrow wisdom from Six Sigma. Six Sigma is a data-driven methodology originally developed at Motorola to eliminate defects and improve quality. At its core, it's about using statistics and structured problem solving to get as close to perfect as possible. How close? Six Sigma literally means a process is so consistent that it produces no more than 3.4 defects per million opportunities. That's 99.99966% good outcomes. In everyday terms, a Six Sigma process is virtually error-free. Now you might be thinking, okay, but I'm not a corporation. What does this have to do with me? Consider this. The same way a business process can be optimized, your daily routines and goal pursuits are processes too. And they have defects, missteps, missed days, errors, and outputs, results, achievements, just like any system. By treating your goal like a process and aiming to steadily reduce your defect rate, the times you fall short, you can dramatically increase your success rate, your yield. Real-world examples drive this home. Amazon handles around 2,000 orders per minute, yet manages to keep customers happy by continuously refining their processes. They've made continuous improvement a daily habit, even assigning managers in each fulfillment center to hunt for inefficiencies and improve workflow in real time. Data is king at Amazon. They measure everything because, as one case study noted, without sufficient data, you simply cannot make decisions. Data drives everything for Amazon. This obsession with measurement and improvement is a big part of how Amazon went from an online bookstore to a tech and retail titan. And it's not just tech companies. In healthcare, Six Sigma's feedback loops save lives. One hospital used Lean Six Sigma methods to cut medication dispensing errors by about 66%, from 6 to 2 errors per 20,000 patient days. Imagine the relief of knowing systems are in place such that errors are 2/3 less likely to happen. Even manufacturing giants like Motorola credit Six Sigma for billions in savings. By 2005, Motorola claimed over $17 billion saved thanks to defect reduction and efficiency gains. The takeaway? Continuous improvement works. Whether for shipping packages, administering medicine, or building a career. Companies achieve astonishing consistency, and you can too on a personal scale. The key is adopting the same mindset. Treat every attempt as data, every setback as a solvable problem, and every day as a chance to get better. Before we break down the loop you'll use, let's decode a couple of technical terms we'll be weaving in. We promised some advanced concepts after all. Standard deviation, sigma. This is a fancy term from statistics that measures how spread out numbers are. In plain language, if your results, say daily steps walked, have a small standard deviation, you're very consistent each day. A large standard deviation means lots of variability. Some days you crush 15,000 steps, other days only 2,000. Six Sigma gets its name from the Greek letter sigma because it's about shrinking that variability, aiming for a process so tight that plus or minus 6 sigma covers all outcomes. For a normal process, plus or minus 1 sigma from the mean covers about 68% of data, plus or minus 2 sigma about 95%, and plus or minus 3 sigma about 99.7%. 6 sigma is off the charts. It corresponds to that 99.9996% success rate. In human terms, achieving 6 sigma in, say, your daily habit might mean only slipping up once in 800 years. Seriously. While you probably don't need to be that perfect, the point is, the more we reduce variability and errors in our process, the closer we get to our goals reliably. Sigma level and yield. In Six Sigma lingo, yield is the percentage of outputs without defects. Each sigma level up means dramatically higher yield. For example, at 3 sigma, you get approximately 99.3% success, roughly 7 defects per 1,000 outcomes, whereas at 6 sigma, you get 99.99966% success, only 3.4 defects per million. That's why even moving up by 1 sigma level is a big deal. It's the difference between pretty good and world class. We can think of our personal goals in a similar way. Maybe right now you succeed 70% of the time, roughly 2 sigma, and we want to get you to 90% or 95% success. Each improvement cycle will bump that sigma level of your life process a bit higher, meaning more of your days go right. DMAIC. This acronym stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, Control, the 5 phases of a Six Sigma project. It's a roadmap for continuous improvement, and we'll use it to structure our infinite feedback loop. Here's a quick overview. Define. Clearly identify what you want to achieve, the goal or critical why, and the scope of the process. In our case, define your desire in concrete terms. Measure. Gather data on where you stand and how you'll quantify success. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it, as the saying goes. Analyze. Study the data to find root causes or key factors, the input X's, affecting your outcome. Look for patterns, correlations, the 80-20 elements. Improve. Design and implement changes to address the causes or optimize the factors. This is where you experiment with solutions. Control. Set up safeguards, habits, tracking, accountability to sustain the gains and monitor the process so it doesn't revert. Then rinse and repeat. The loop is infinite. Throughout this guide, we'll go through each of these stages in a way that feels like a personal project, not a corporate report. Ready to roll up your sleeves? Let's start with you and what you really want. Define, clarify your desire and process boundaries. Every improvement journey begins with definition. In Six Sigma, teams spend time up front defining the problem or goal, the stakes, and the process they're going to improve. For your infinite feedback loop, you need a clear target. Vague wishes like, I want to be healthier, or I want more money, won't cut it. Get specific. What would success look like? How will you know you've achieved it? Take a moment right now to list your top 3 desires or goals. These could be life goals. Write a book, get fit, start a business, land a certain job, improve relationships, whatever matters most to you. Don't overthink it. Just jot down 3 things you deeply want to accomplish or improve in your life. Got your list? Great. Now pick one of those desires to focus on first. You'll apply the loop to the others later, but one at a time. Write down that one desire in a single sentence, as clearly and specifically as possible. This is your project why, the outcome you care about. For example, I want to lose 10 kilograms in 6 months. Or, I want to write a 50,000-word novel by the end of the year. Or, I want to double my monthly side income within 12 months. Specific and time-bound if possible. Clarity here sets the stage for everything. Next, define the process by which this outcome will be achieved. This is where we can borrow a handy Six Sigma tool, the SIPOC diagram. SIPOC stands for suppliers, inputs, process, outputs, customers. It sounds businessy, but it's basically a high-level map to understand any process. Let's adapt it to your personal goal. Suppliers. Who or what provides resources to you? For a personal goal, this could be yourself, mentors, tools, or services you rely on. Inputs. What do you need to accomplish the goal? Think time, money, equipment, information, etc. Process. What are the key steps you'll take? The major phases or tasks that make up your approach. Outputs. What are the tangible results or milestones along the way? What does the process create? E.g. chapters written, workout sessions completed, prototypes built. Customers. Who benefits or is impacted? Ultimately you, but possibly others. Your family, your boss, your actual paying customers, etc., depending on the goal. Mapping this out gives you a bird's eye view. For example, if Jane's goal is to publish a book, her SIPOC might look like suppliers, Jane herself, skills, creativity, plus inspiration from other authors or research sources. Inputs, time to write each day, a laptop, an outline of ideas, coffee for fuel. Process, write first draft, daily writing sessions, self-edit chapters, get feedback from an editor or writing group. Revise draft. Outputs, completed chapters, eventually a finished manuscript ready for publication. Customers, Jane, sense of accomplishment, career growth, and her future readers who get to enjoy the book. This exercise forces you to think of your goal not just as a wish, but as a process with moving parts. It highlights things like, do you have the necessary inputs and suppliers lined up? Are the process steps clear? And who are you doing this for? Knowing your customer, even if it's just future you, can be a big motivator. Action step. Sketch a quick SIPOC diagram or outline for your chosen goal. Don't worry about making it pretty. Simply list who, what are your key suppliers, what inputs you need, the high-level steps of your approach, the outputs you expect to produce, and who will ultimately benefit. This context will make it easier to spot where things might go wrong and what to measure in the next phases. By now, you should have a clearly defined goal, desire, your target why with specifics, a rough map of the process you'll use to get there, your approach, key resources and outputs. This definition phase is crucial. As the saying goes, a problem well-defined is half solved. In our case, a goal well-defined is half achieved because you've taken a nebulous idea and turned it into something tangible you can work with. Now let's put on our detective hat and talk about measurement. Measure, establish your baseline and metrics. With a clear goal in mind, the next step is measure. In Six Sigma projects, the team would identify what data to collect, then gather baseline measurements on how the process is currently performing. Likewise, for your personal goal, you need to get data on your starting point and decide how you'll track progress. Remember, no data, no improvement. As Amazon's philosophy emphasizes, you need metrics to shine light on where to improve. Start by asking, what can I measure that reflects progress toward my goal? Depending on your goal, some metrics will be obvious. If it's a weight loss or fitness goal, you can measure body weight, body fat percentage, workout frequency, running speed, etc. For writing a book, you might measure words written per day, or chapters completed, or hours spent writing. For saving money, you track dollars saved per week, expenses cut, debt reduced, etc. For improving a skill, you can measure practice hours or some performance metric relevant to that skill. Identify at least one primary metric, your personal why metric, that indicates success. For example, weight in kilograms, or total words written, or revenue per month. Then consider a few process metrics, the X's, that influence that outcome. For instance, if weight is your why, some X metrics could be daily calories consumed, calories burned, hours of exercise, hours of sleep, etc. If your goal is writing, an X might be hours of focused writing time per day, or number of writing sessions per week. We will use these in the analyze phase to see which matter most. Now gather baseline data. Where are you right now on these metrics before making any changes? If possible, take a week or two to track your current performance without altering anything, just to get a realistic baseline. If you're reading this in one sitting, at least write down from memory. Roughly how many times did I exercise last week? How many words did I write? What did I eat yesterday? Etc. Whatever fits your case. For example, suppose your goal is to run a 5K under 30 minutes. Your current baseline might be, I run 5K in 36 minutes today. You might measure how many kilometers you run per week and your current average pace per kilometer. Those are your baseline numbers. Or if your goal is to double your side business income, your baseline could be currently earning $500 per month from side gigs. You'd start tracking how many new clients you approach, conversion rates, etc. as input metrics. Action step, define your baseline. Write down your current status for the goal you chose. How far are you from the target? Also decide on a tracking method. Will you use a journal, a spreadsheet, an app? For instance, you might log your weight every morning or record daily word counts in a spreadsheet. Set up a simple table for the coming days, weeks to capture data. Even if it's just tally marks for each day, you stick to your plan versus slip up. That's data. Speaking of slips, in Six Sigma, we often talk about defects in DPMO, defects per million opportunities, as measures of errors. For personal goals, a defect could be a failure to meet your daily target or a mistake in your process. An opportunity is each chance to do it right. For example, if you plan to write every day, each day is one opportunity. If you miss 2 days out of 30, that's 2 defects in 30 opportunities. We could calculate a defect rate, or even DPMO for fun. 2/30s times 1 million is approximately 66,667 DPMO, about a 3 Sigma performance. While you don't need to literally calculate DPMO for your habits, the concept is useful. How often are you hitting versus missing the mark? Expressed as a percentage, this is your yield. If you worked out 4 days out of 7 this week, that's a 57% yield. Lots of room for improvement. If you manage 6 out of 7, you're 85% yield. Getting better. The measurement phase is also a good time to establish any tools for data collection. This could be wearable devices for health stats, a habit tracking app, or just a notebook by your bed. Make it as effortless as possible to capture data. Remember, consistent measurement itself tends to drive improvement because what you measure, you pay attention to. One more thing, consider measuring not just outcomes, but also process variation. Life isn't perfectly steady. Some weeks you'll do great, others you'll stumble. We want to tell if changes are just normal ups and downs or real improvements. This is where a bit of statistical thinking comes in. For instance, you might calculate your average daily steps and see a standard deviation over a week. If you later implement a change, you can see not only if the average goes up, but if your day-to-day consistency improves, standard deviation goes down. If you're analytically inclined, you can even start visualizing your data over time with a simple run chart or control chart. Plot your metric, say words written per day, each day on a graph. Mark the average and maybe the control limits, which are typically average plus or minus 3 standard deviations. This will help you see trends or any days where you wildly exceeded or fell short of typical performance. In this example control chart, the green line shows the process average, while the red dashed lines show upper and lower control limits, set at plus or minus 3 sigma for a stable process. By plotting your performance, blue points, over time, you can see if the process stays in control, meaning within expected variation, or if any special cause variation appears, like a point outside the limits. Such charts help distinguish real improvements from random noise, ensuring that any gains you see are statistically meaningful and not just flukes. The bottom line: measure, measure, measure. Define what success looks like in numbers and track it relentlessly. As you gather this data, you're preparing to play detective in the next phase, where we'll dig into why those numbers look the way they do. Analyze, identify patterns, root causes, and key variables. Now comes the detective work, the analyze phase. You have data, or at least a baseline sense of where you stand. It's time to ask, what is this data telling me? Why am I getting these results? What are the biggest obstacles or drivers influencing success? In Six Sigma projects, the analyze phase involves rigorous tools, regression analysis, fishbone, Ishikawa, diagrams for cause and effect, hypothesis testing, Pareto analysis, and more. We'll keep things practical and user-friendly here, but the spirit is the same. Find the vital few factors, the critical X's, that have the strongest effect on your outcome, the why. First, step back and look at your process and results. Ask yourself, when I succeed, what conditions are present? E.g., on days I hit my word count, I notice I wrote first thing in the morning before checking email. When I fail, what went wrong or what's different? E.g., on days I skipped the gym, it's usually because I worked late and felt exhausted. What are the most common failure modes or reasons for not meeting the plan? List them out. You might have multiple reasons popping up. This is where we can apply the famed Pareto principle, 80-20 rule. Often a few key issues cause the majority of problems. For instance, maybe you listed 5 reasons you skip workouts: lack of time, feeling tired, bad weather, no gym partner, injury. If you track frequency, you might find feeling tired after work and lack of time account for 80% of the missed sessions, whereas bad weather or other reasons are rare. Focus on the big causes first. A great visual tool here is a Pareto chart, basically a bar chart of causes sorted by frequency, with a cumulative percentage line to show the contribution of each cause. Let's say over a month, you logged reasons for each day you didn't do your intended habit. You could create a Pareto like the one below. This Pareto chart example shows causes of late arrivals, hypothetically say to work, on the x-axis, with frequency on the left y-axis, blue bars. The bars are sorted from most frequent to least, traffic, parking, childcare, etc. The orange line, right y-axis, is the cumulative percentage of all instances. Notice how traffic and parking issues together comprise around 80% of the late arrivals, a classic 80-20 scenario. The insight? If you focus on solving those top causes, e.g., leave earlier to beat traffic or arrange guaranteed parking, you'll eliminate the majority of lateness. In your personal goal, similarly identify the top 1 to 2 factors causing most of your defects or holding you back. If you have enough data, you can actually draw a Pareto chart for your situation. But even a simple ranked list of reasons is fine. The point is to prioritize. Not all problems are equal. Find the leverage points, the areas where a small change could make a big difference because that issue is contributing disproportionately to your setbacks. Another analysis angle, think in terms of y equals f of x. This is a Six Sigma way of saying the output y is a function of inputs x's. For your goal, y is your success metric, e.g. weight lost, words written, etc. The x's are the factors that drive it: diet, workout intensity, hours of writing, focus, etc. If you plotted some x versus y, like hours of study versus test score, or calories consumed versus weight change, do you see correlation? Can you derive any kind of rough formula or at least a principle? For example, you might realize every 500 calorie deficit per day leads to about 1 pound loss per week. That's a known rough formula in fitness. Or every extra hour of writing in the morning yields 200 additional words. These relationships turn your desire into something quantifiable and adjustable. Think probabilistically too. Instead of saying, I either hit my goal or I don't, View each attempt as having a probability of success that you can improve. Initially, maybe each day you have a 50-50 chance of sticking to your new diet. Through analyzing why you fail, e.g., 80% of the time it's due to not having healthy snacks handy when hunger strikes, you implement a fix. Always carry a healthy snack. Now the probability of sticking to the diet each day might jump to 70%. Your goal is to keep raising that probability of daily success, essentially increasing your yield. Over many iterations, those daily probabilities compound into huge gains. It's also worth doing a root cause analysis on persistent issues. A classic technique is the 5 whys. Ask why repeatedly to drill down to a core cause. For example, I didn't write this week. Why? I was too busy at work. Why were you so busy? I had to cover for a colleague. Why? Because our team is short-staffed. Why? We haven't hired a replacement yet. Okay, that's out of your control. But maybe a different chain. I didn't write because I didn't feel inspired. Why? Because I sat down at 10 p.m. when I was exhausted. Why? Because I didn't prioritize writing earlier. Why? Because I treated it as the last thing of the day instead of the first. Aha, root cause could be scheduling and energy management. The solution might be to write in the morning. During Analyze, you might uncover knowledge gaps too. Maybe you realize you're not sure which diet is effective or which exercises burn most calories. This is a cue to do some research or ask an expert, analogous to a Six Sigma team doing process analysis or benchmarking industry best practices. Fill in those knowledge gaps so you can design better improvements. Action step: identify your top 2 to 3 factors or reasons that most affect your progress. Look at the data or recall the last few weeks. What circumstances coincide with success? What circumstances almost guarantee failure? Write these down. For each major factor, jot any ideas on why it's important. For example, I always fail to get up early when I sleep after midnight, late bedtime, on key factor. Or, I perform much better at the gym when I go with a friend, gym buddy, chowker, key factor. This list of insights will guide you in the next phase as you craft targeted improvements. By the end of Analyze, you should feel like you have a clearer diagnosis of what's going on. You've turned raw data into information and insight. Maybe you discovered that lack of sleep is the silent killer of your productivity, or that one type of task yields most of your results in business. Maybe you found a bottleneck, a particular step in your process that's slowing everything else down. Perfect. You can't wait to fix these, right? Let's move on to doing exactly that in the improve phase. Improve, develop, and implement solutions. This is the exciting part. Improve. Armed with insights from your analysis, you can now brainstorm and execute changes to elevate your performance and remove obstacles. In Six Sigma, the improve phase often involves designing experiments or piloting process changes to see if they yield better outcomes. In your personal infinite feedback loop, you are the project and the guinea pig at the same time, which is great because you have full control to experiment with your own habits and routines. Start by reviewing the key factors or root causes you identified. For each, consider possible solutions or improvements. Some will be obvious, others might require creative thinking. Here are some examples of improvements aligned with common findings. If lack of time is a root cause, can you streamline or delegate some tasks to free up time for your goal? Or combine activities, e.g., Listen to audiobooks about business while commuting if your goal is to learn entrepreneurship. Perhaps adopt time management techniques like Pomodoro or time blocking to ensure you dedicate slots to your priority. If low energy tiredness is a root cause, maybe the improvement is to schedule the task at a different time, like doing creative work in the morning when you're fresh. Or implement better sleep hygiene so you aren't as tired, or improve your diet for better energy. If environmental distractions stop you, a solution could be to change your environment. For writing, set up a dedicated, device-free writing zone. For healthy eating, remove junk food from the house so you're not tempted. If lack of skill or knowledge is an issue, improvement might mean getting training or a mentor. Take a quick course, find a coach, or read up on best practices. Inject new knowledge into your process. If accountability helps you succeed, then add that accountability structure. Get a buddy to check in on your progress, or announce your goal publicly, or hire a personal trainer or editor, depending on the goal. If a specific step is a bottleneck, simplify or fix that step. For example, if you find you spend too much time researching and it delays actually taking action, impose a strict limit, like only 2 days for research, then I start coding my project. Or if a particular exercise always causes injury, replace it with a safer alternative. The improvements you choose should directly target the biggest levers you found. We're essentially adjusting the input X's to see the effect on output Y. In statistical terms, you're doing a single-factor experiment on yourself. Change one factor at a time, if feasible, and observe the result. For instance, try sleeping an extra hour for a week and see if your productivity increases. Or double your marketing calls for a month and see if income goes up. When brainstorming solutions, don't be afraid to think outside the box. Sometimes a radical change can break you out of a rut. And remember the concept of Kaizen, small, continuous improvements. Even a 5% tweak, when done consistently, can accumulate into big gains over time. It could be as small as laying out your gym clothes the night before, so one less hurdle in the morning, or keeping a water bottle at your desk to improve hydration and focus. Action step. For each key factor or cause you identified, write down at least one improvement idea. Then choose 1 or 2 improvements to implement immediately. Don't overwhelm yourself by trying 10 new habits at once. Pick a couple changes that you believe will make the most difference. Commit to testing them for a defined period, say the next 2 weeks, to see what effect they have on your metrics. Now implement your chosen improvements. This might mean modifying your schedule, your environment, your approach, or even your mindset. Treat it like a scientific experiment. I predict that doing X will improve Y by Z amount. For example, I predict that writing first thing in the morning instead of at night will increase my daily word count by 50%. Make your hypothesis and then test it. It's helpful during the improve phase to continue keeping notes or a journal. Record what changes you made and any immediate observations. Sometimes improvements take time to show results, but you might notice immediate differences in how you feel or in intermediate indicators. E.g., since I started packing lunch instead of eating out, I feel less sluggish in the afternoons. Also, be prepared for some trial and error. Not every solution will work as expected. In fact, failure is still part of the loop, but now it's informed failure. If an experiment doesn't yield improvement, that's valuable feedback too. Thomas Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That's the attitude of continuous improvement. Each iteration teaches you something. Keep in mind, improvements don't have to be solely about removing negatives. You can also amplify positives. If your analysis revealed you're super productive at a certain time or in a certain condition, how can you maximize that? Maybe those are the hours to schedule your hardest tasks, or perhaps you reward yourself to reinforce behaviors that work. One more thing, document your process changes as if you were coaching someone else to do it. This external perspective helps clarify the steps. For example, you might write, new morning routine. Wake up at 6:30, drink water, 10 minutes stretching, then write from 7 to 8 with phone on airplane mode. Writing it out like instructions cements your commitment and serves as a reference if you start deviating. By the end of the improve phase, you should have implemented a better version of your process, your 2.0 or 3.0 iteration. You've adjusted inputs to hopefully see better outputs. But our work isn't done when we execute a change. We need to verify it and maintain it. That's where the final phase, control, comes in to complete the loop. Control, sustain the gains, and close the loop. You've made some improvements. Fantastic. The control phase ensures those gains stick and the process continues to run smoothly, or even better, improves further. In Six Sigma, control is about putting systems in place to monitor the process and prevent backsliding. In your infinite feedback loop, think of control as habits, routines, and tracking that keep you on your path long term. First, circle back to measurement. After implementing improvements, did your metrics actually improve? Compare the new data to your baseline. Look at averages, totals, whatever makes sense. Has your success rate, yield, gone up? E.g., now you hit your daily goal 80% of days instead of 50%. Did the output metric improve? E.g., words per week increased, weight trend downwards accelerated. Check for statistical significance if applicable. Or simply, is the change clearly beyond normal fluctuation? This is where those control charts or run charts help. You might visibly see a step change after a certain date. If the data is noisy, you may need a few more weeks to be sure. If the improvements worked, congratulations. Take a moment to celebrate the progress, but don't get too comfy. Control means staying vigilant. If something didn't work as expected, that's okay. It's not a failure, it's an iteration. You might need to tweak the solution or try a different approach. Either way, you've closed one loop of feedback and are ready to start the next with more knowledge. To sustain your gains, establish controls or safeguards. Habit and routine. Convert the successful behaviors into routines. Humans are creatures of habit. If you can make the improved process automatic, it will stick. For example, after proving that morning writing works, set it in stone as part of your daily routine. Visual management. Use charts or checklists to monitor yourself. You can keep a control chart on your wall or a simple habit streak calendar. This visual feedback keeps you aware. In manufacturing, an out-of-control point triggers investigation. In your life, seeing a bad week on a chart should prompt you to analyze what happened and correct course. Standard Operating Procedure, SOP. Write down your personal SOP for this goal. Sounds formal, but it could be a one-pager. My process for healthy eating. Meal prep on Sundays, always have nuts, fruits at desk, no sugary drinks on weekdays, etc. When you slip, refer back to this document to recalibrate. Accountability systems. If you enlisted a buddy or mentor, keep that relationship going. Maybe you report your weekly progress to a friend or do a monthly review of your finances with your spouse. Knowing someone will check in can motivate you to maintain standards. Error proofing. In Six Sigma, they talk about poka-yoke, mistake proofing. How can you make it hard to fail? Example, if you tend to forget to practice guitar, leave the guitar out in the open or even in front of the TV as a gentle obstacle, so you can't ignore it. If you oversleep, maybe get an alarm clock that forces you out of bed to stop it. Little hacks that prevent errors before they happen. The control phase is also about thinking ahead. What could cause this new system to break down, and how will I respond? Life will throw curveballs, vacations, busy seasons at work, illness, etc. Plan for how to adapt your loop under different conditions. Maybe you establish a minimum baseline for bad weeks, e.g., even when busy, I will do at least one short workout to keep the habit alive. This way, you don't lose all momentum and have to start over. Most importantly, embrace the infinite nature of the loop. Control isn't the end. It feeds back into the next define. After maintaining it for a while, you might raise the bar or choose a new aspect to improve. For instance, once you've consistently hit the gym 4 days a week for months and it's second nature, you might define a new goal like training for a half marathon, and off you go into the next iteration of DMAIC for that new challenge. Or you continue to fine-tune. Maybe you're hitting your word count, but now you want to improve the quality of your writing. Time for a new measurement, perhaps feedback scores from peers, and another loop of analysis and improvement. Let's briefly illustrate how far you've come by completing this loop with a personal example. Recap. Example, suppose your desire was to get fit and lose 10 kilograms. You defined it clearly, 10 kilograms in 6 months, improve fitness level. You measured your baseline, currently 80 kilograms, trending up, exercise 1 time a week, diet approximately 2,500 kilocalories per day. In Analyze, you discovered your biggest issues were drinking sugary sodas, lots of extra calories, and skipping workouts due to evening fatigue. You also noted you're more likely to exercise if you do it in the morning. So in Improve, you cut out sugary drinks, replaced with water and tea, and started going to bed earlier so you can hit a morning gym class. You also laid out workout clothes at night and found a colleague to join morning runs twice a week. Accountability. After 4 weeks, you measure again. Weight is down 2 kilograms. On track. You exercise 3 to 4 times a week now, up from 1, and you feel more energetic. The data shows a clear drop in average daily calories and a steady increase in weekly exercise minutes. Success. In control, you decide to keep a food diary and weekly weigh-in chart to ensure you stay on track. You schedule a review at the 3-month mark to adjust if needed. You've turned what was a vague wish into a self-correcting system. Even when you hit the target 10-kilogram loss, you won't just celebrate and revert. You'll have a new lifestyle and the tools to maintain or set the next goal. That's the power of the infinite feedback loop approach. You've not only achieved a result, you've built a resilient process that can continue indefinitely. Before we wrap up, one more cool perspective. You can think of the infinite feedback loop like a piece of code running on loop, where each cycle refines the output. Plain text copy edit, while not yet achieved an desire. Do planned process. Execute the current process for pursuing your goal data. Collect feedback. Dash measure results and gather feedback data insights equals analyze data. Hash analyze to learn what helps or hinders improvements equals brainstorm solutions, insights, implement improvements. Hash adjust the process with a new improvement update, standard work. Jasher update your routine, SOP with the changes. Jasher loop back and repeat, celebrate success. Pseudocode, the infinite feedback loop as an algorithm. Each cycle uses feedback to get smarter. In plain language, try, measure, learn, improve, repeat until success is achieved. Even after that, a new loop can begin for the next level of growth. Conclusion, from data to destiny. By now you've seen how blending industrial-grade process thinking with personal development can yield remarkable results. The infinite feedback loop isn't magic or motivational fluff. It's a method. It asks you to be both the scientist and the subject in your life experiment. You define what better means. You measure where you are. You analyze why. You make changes and you lock in the gains. Then you do it again and again, getting a little closer to your ultimate vision each time. This approach shifts your mindset in a powerful way. Failure becomes data, not defeat. You stop seeing personal shortcomings as character flaws and start seeing them as process variations to be understood and reduced. Just as a manufacturer doesn't cry when a widget comes out defective, but instead tweaks the machine, you won't beat yourself up when you slip. You'll examine the slip, learn from it, and tweak your system to reduce the chance of it happening again. This is a probabilistic way of viewing success. You are steadily increasing the odds in your favor. Today, a 1% improvement, tomorrow another 1%, and soon you've achieved what once felt impossible. By integrating tools like Pareto charts or control charts, you also gain visual proof of improvement. There's nothing more motivating than seeing your trend line going up or down if that's the goal, and knowing it's because of changes you implemented. It creates a positive feedback loop and motivation as well. Success breeds confidence, which breeds more success. And remember, you're not limited to one loop. Every goal, every habit, every skill can have its own infinite feedback loop. Tackle them one by one. Perhaps you'll use this on your fitness first, then on your career, then on a personal passion project. Over time, thinking in terms of define, measure, analyze, improve, control will become second nature. You'll approach challenges less emotionally and more analytically, which actually frees up your creativity and optimism because you know any problem can be broken down and iteratively solved. Consider the compound effect. If you improve 1% each day, in a year, you'll be approximately 37 times better than when you started, thanks to exponential growth. That's the spirit of continuous improvement that propels companies like Amazon. And now you have that tool in your hands. As one Lean Six Sigma principle states, it's about continuous and incremental improvement, Kaizen, always finding a little better way every day. When you adopt that, your life becomes a dynamic project, always evolving, never stuck. Your next loop awaits. Take a moment to reflect on what you've learned about your goal through this process. You started with a desire. Now you have a concrete plan, data-backed insights, and improved habits. Envision yourself 6 months from now, running this loop over and over, each time hitting new milestones. It's not a straight line to success, but a looping staircase. You might go in circles, but those circles are climbing upward. Finally, don't forget to enjoy the journey. Six Sigma might sound hyper-rational, but it has a deeply human element. It's about fulfilling customer needs and striving for excellence. You are the customer of your life, and you deserve the best quality life you can design. By treating your aspirations with the seriousness of a big project, you're also treating yourself with respect and commitment. That's empowering and fulfilling in itself. So the challenge I leave you with, take that one goal you chose and truly commit to the infinite feedback loop for it. Embrace the role of both CEO and process engineer of your own life. When something goes wrong, smile and say, "Great, I found a bug in the system. Let's fix it." When things go right, celebrate and say, "Excellent, how can I make this even better or more consistent?" Teach this approach to others. You'll understand it even better when you do. Your life is an ongoing experiment and an ever-improving masterpiece. With each loop, you're not only getting closer to your desires, you're rewiring how you approach any challenge with curiosity, data, and determination. That is a recipe for lifelong growth. Now go forth and iterate your way to greatness. Your dreams, backed by data, are closer than ever. The loop is in your hands, and it's infinite. Good luck and keep improving.